Torah portion, as you all know, is going to be Chayei Shara, which is the living or the life of Shara, our mother Shara. Genesis is going to cover Genesis chapter 23, verse 1 to 25, 18. 1 Kings 1, 1 through 13. John 4, 3 through 14. All right, so we'll be giving a commentary, of course, as we read. Try to keep it just concise, straightforward, so we don't have, so it's easy that we can stay fluid in the text. Okay. Okay, so we're starting in Genesis chapter 23, and we're going to begin with verse 1. Okay. Dealing with the life of our mother Shara, and then going into her life, her end of her life, which is a sad occasion, and then Isaac getting a wife. Okay. All right, so let's start with chapter 23, verse 1. All right, let's read.
And Sarah was 120 years old.
So 127 years old, Shara. Go ahead.
These were the years of the life of Shara.
So it mentioned how old she was, her life of Shara at the beginning, and the life of Shara at the end. You know, showing us that it was a fulfilled, complete life, right? And that's what the Most High intended. It's doubled, all right? So they doubled, the text is doubled right here. All right, okay, go ahead.
And Shara died in Kirjath-Bara, the same.
Kirjath-Arba.
The same is Hebron.
It was a mourning for our mother Shara. We were recounting her life. So when somebody dies, it's not just a time for you to get together and recognize that they died, but remember their life, things that they did, the times that you had with that person, if you had any times together, the impact that that person had on your life. And it also raises the point to let people know how you feel about them, you know, how you love them, how you care about them while they're still alive, because you can't do that after they pass on, after they die. So keep your aggression, your hostility, your arguing, your hitting, your fighting, your fussing, keep that to an absolute minimum, because you don't want that to be the memory that somebody has of you when you die. Because they might be, oh, I'm glad that he or she died, because now it's not going to be as much arguing around here anymore. So you want to be a pleasant person. You want to make an impact, a positive impact on the people around you. Okay, Khan? Go ahead.
And Abraham stood up from before his dead and spake unto sons of Heth, saying.
So these are the ethnic Africans, Hamites. What does he say to them?
I'm a stranger and a sojourner with you. Give me a possession of a burying place with you, that I may bury my dead out of my sight. And the children of Heth answered Abraham, saying unto him, Hear us, my Lord, thou art a mighty prince among us. In the choice of our sepulchres, bury the dead. None of us shall withhold from thee his sepulchre, but that thou mayest bury thy dead. And Abraham stood up and bowed himself to the people of the land, even to the children of Heth. And he communed with them, saying, if it be your mind that I should bury my dead out of my sight, hear me, and entreat for me to Hephron, the son of Zoar, that he may give me the cave of Machpelah, which is in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth, he shall give it me for possession of a burying place amongst you.
So he's asking basically for, he needs a cemetery or a burial yard to put, or burial place, I should say, to put the people that belong to his family that died. His family, his community that died. And that shows us that that's one of the backbones to show that a community is very stable, where they don't have to look for somebody else on the outside when it comes to burial. So Abraham was the first. So Abraham said, look, I need to get a place, pay to get a place to bury the people that are part of my little small kingdom, my sheikdom, because death is inevitable. So he wanted a place to bury the dead people, so they wouldn't have to go scraping around looking for other relatives who weren't a part of Abraham's community and other people outside the community to take care of what needed to be taken care of. So they made provisions to bury all of the people that passed away. Okay? Okay. Go ahead.
And Ephron dwelt among the children of Heth, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham in the audience of the children of Heth, even of all that went in the gate of his city, saying, Nay, my Lord, hear me, the field give I thee, and the cave that is therein. I give it thee as in the presence of the sons of my people, give I it thee, bury thy dead. And Abraham bowed down himself before the people of the land, and he spake unto Ephron in the audience of the people.
Audience of the people meaning everybody was a witness to what happened. All right, go ahead.
Of the land, saying, but if thou wilt give it, I pray thee, hear me, I will give thee money for the field. Take it of me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying unto him, My Lord, hearken unto me. The land is worth 400 shekels of silver. What is the betwixt and...
What is that betwixt?
What is that betwixt me and thee?
Meaning, what's the betwixt mean between? What is this 400 shekels between me and you? Meaning, I'll give it to you for 400 shekels. I'll give it to you. It's only 400 shekels, but you can have it. So he wanted to give about the land. Go ahead.
Bury therefore thy dead.
Uh-huh.
And Abraham hearkened unto Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant.
So remember, he wanted to give it for free. But Abraham said, no, I'm going to pay for it, all right? Because you don't want people coming back saying that what's yours isn't yours. So you have to have a legal agreement with people, best in writing. So there's no misunderstanding. There's no disagreement on what are the terms of this possession or this agreement that we have. So it should be with marriage. These are the terms of our marriage. These are the parameters of marriage that we see set forth in the Holy Scriptures, the Makwara'ah, in the Bible, in the Tanakh, in the Torah. We see that this is the standard. So let's standardize and write everything out so we make sure that these people that are getting into this marriage in this modern time, in the 21st century, they can understand the concepts that are coming from Abraham's time, at roughly 1600 BC, at roughly 1600 BC, they can understand the fullness. I'm sorry, not 1600, at roughly, it'll be roughly 1800 BC, okay? 1800 BC. So they understand. So the men and women in modern times, they don't understand marriage. They don't understand property. They don't understand when you loan somebody something. They don't understand when you give somebody something to keep. So all of these things should be written out according to the Torah, not just to satisfy what you want. You understand? You could tell me, yeah, brother, if you don't come back for this in 2 months, then it gets to be mine. That's not Torah. You can't make a person have an agreement like that. That's stealing. Now, if you have to go through some payments to keep something of mine safe, I'll be more than glad to pay you. But I'm not going to give up my rights to this property that I'm giving you to hold, because I could be in an accident. I could be in a hospital. Okay? And then you would have all of my things that belong to me because I didn't come get it in time. That's not fair. You understand? That's what pawn shops do. And it's not righteous. You want to sell somebody something, sell it. But if you give somebody, pawn shops should not be selling stuff that they have been pawning, giving the person money to hold it for them. It's a loan. Now, if the agreement is you forfeit on your loan, I own your possession. That's a whole different arrangement, right? Huh? It's a different arrangement. So Abraham is saying, I'll give you this money, 400 pieces of silver for this land to bury my descendants and the descendants of the members of my household, of my house, Bayath Abaraham. Okay, go ahead.
In the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field and the cave which was therein, and all the trees that were in the field, that were in all the borders round about, were made sure.
So made sure meaning they made sure, meaning that they established where are the borders of the land. Like a surveyor came out and said, okay, this right here, mark that, okay? This right here, mark that, okay, these are the borders of Abraham's land. Go ahead.
Unto Abraham for possession in the presence of the children of the field of Machpelah before Mamre.
Now remember now, the children of Heth are Hamites. Everybody understand that? They occupied that land when Abraham was there. The Ishmaelites, so-called Arabs, have no stake in that land of Israel. Their land was south of our borders. They had no stake in that land of Israel. Ishmael did not get an inheritance in the land of Israel. The Palestinians did not get an inheritance in the land of Israel. And most of those people, the Palestinians, are not the ancient people there that come from there. They were transplanted there over years of Muslim and Arab occupation, not having been there for 1,000 years or 700 years. Maybe 500 years, we can go back to the 1600s. They could have been there, possibly, but they have an ancient genetic link to that land. Most of the people over there now, no. They are Israelites that were transplanted there after they got kicked out, and then they came back to the land as slaves and as guards and servants under the Ottoman Empire, okay? Under the Arab Muslims that were the slaves from the Shalom Akim, from the Muslims that were in Egypt, but they don't have a stake in that land. Only people you read about when you're talking about the land of ancient Israel are Moabite and Ammonites. You may read about them because their territories touched ours, and you read about mostly the Hamites. All right, you read about the Hamites. Okay, so Edom had a territory south of ours. Moab had a territory. Okay, and I believe the children of Ammon that we got a piece of their territory when we conquered them also. I believe it's a small piece, but it's not a large piece. We got a big portion of Moab's territory. Right? The children of Gad took over Moab's territory, some of their territory. All right. Maybe that's why we got Chinese eyes sometimes. But anyway, all jokes aside, the Israelites had no stake in these lands. Okay? So let's continue.
And after this, Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, the same as Hebron, in the land of Canaan.
Mm-hmm.
And the field and the cave
Okay.
that is therein were made sure unto Abraham.
Made sure meaning the borders were the borders were verified. Everybody understand what I mean? If you don't understand what I mean, raise your hand. So the property line, what's his and what's not his, was marked and was made certain that this is his. Everybody understand that? They made certain that this is his. You right here. All right, this is his land. That's what it means when it said it was made sure. Everybody understand that? Now go ahead.
For possession of a burying place by the sons of Heth.
By the sons of Heth, meaning by the Hamites, which was the Heth, which are the Hittites, which also again occupied the Anatolia area in Turkey. They weren't just in that area over there, by Israel. They were outside of Israel, went into what they call Asia Minor, into Turkey. That's where they lived at also, the children of Heth, which is Chayei, which is the Hittites. All right? Kala Shara the body of Yahweh, Na'isha wa Nashami. All that Yahweh said, what we do and hear. So very important. We see a death, and we see an account of the life and the lifespan of our mother Sarah. So we had to make sure that we keep accurate records of people being born and when they died. See, during slavery times, and then sometimes when we had to move around a lot, when we were getting pushed off the reservations, we had records. We could write, we could draw, we had scrolls, but them things were lost during slavery and during the conquest of the Americas, the family lineages, the family lines, what relatives were in what different tribes. Because remember, once a person fought against another tribe, they got absorbed into that tribe if they became a prisoner of war. Everybody understand that? Everybody, if you don't understand that, raise your hand. If one family went to war with another family and one of the soldiers got taken by the people he was fighting, he became part of that family. If you understand that, raise your hand. He became part of that family. So then he would marry a woman that was a part of that family. And a lot of times that child would become what? After the tribe of the mother, not the tribe of the father. And this was for political reasons, not for genetic reasons, because you're gonna marry the woman that's in that tribe, and they wanted you to have the mindset that the rules are, if you take one of our women, your children belong to our tribe. Everybody understand that? That's not the biblical rule, but that was the political, all right, rule of the Gadites and several other tribes too. And that would decrease the number, the influence that that external tribe would have on that tribe they were coming into. Everybody understand that? Okay. All right, let's read chapter 24. Let's read chapter 24. Yeah. Yeah, we already got you up in there, man. We saluted you in already. Ooh, chapter 24 is a beautiful chapter. Chapter 24. All right, let's start with verse 1. Everybody listening? Listen up. All right? Listen up, everybody. So again, our mother, Shaddai, has died. Right? She was 127 years old, and she got buried at the cave of Machpelah. Our father Abraham bought that land, and it's our land even still to today, because we come from the ones that got blessed with the covenant and received the inheritance, which is Jacob. So whatever belongs to Abraham, then to Isaac, then to Jacob, got distributed to us. All right, as children of Gad, Jordan belongs to me. Jordan is not the Jordanians. It belongs to me. It legit is my land. Amman belongs to me. It's legit my land. I can't claim it because the United Nations and the Arab countries and England made an agreement of who was going to be in what territory and land, and they didn't include the Native American Indians, which are the children of Gad. So we're out of that discussion. We can go and live there if we want to. We can settle there if we want to, but we'll be foreigners unless we can show, hey, my ancestors, and we have tangible evidence, which we don't, that we came from this land and this territory. We don't have that. If we had that, then we have more of a claim. And that's why, like I said earlier, it was so important for the ancient peoples, all the way up into the Europeans, to destroy your family records, even up to slavery. When they had the names where they put the Gadites, the Native American Indians, on these little rolls, that was for the people that wanted to be a part of that wanted to submit to that program that the government was setting up. And the same thing they're trying to do now in Dominican Republic, where you're not going to get no food, you can't go to the store, you can't buy things if you don't show your vaccine card. They did the same thing to us. If you don't show your enrollment card that you've registered with the U.S. government, you can't get this food even though you're living in a land where food can't grow. You can't get this salt. You can't get this flour and sugar to make food. You can't get these beans because you haven't enrolled with the government. So a lot of times people would stay on the outside and they wouldn't be able to benefit from whatever things the U.S. government was giving out for free. Okay? So now we have Abraham buying this land that legitimately belongs to us now that we can't benefit from. And we have our mother Sarah being buried there. All right. Now, the way the burial works was they don't teach this a lot. But when you look at the archaeology, you can see it a lot. Give me the blue, it's a blue book over there in this bookshelf. Blue book. It has something about archaeology on it too. What happened was, look up top too, a lot of times they would bury the people. Okay, they would bury the people, all right? But then what would happen is a few years later, they would take that person that was buried, and they would put that person into like a big clay vessel, all right? This is the archaeology of society in the Holy Land. And this is a very good book. because it gives details about archaeology, and then it goes into paleontology, dealing with people, their bones, their hair, their diet, and how they were buried. So in this book, it shows you that the Israelites would bury people, and then they would take the burial and they would put it in, here it calls it a masonry cist tomb, a jar barrier of an infant or fetus. So they put the babies in jars automatically when they would pass on. All right. But then also, I don't think I have it marked on here, but they would take the bones years later, go back into the tomb, and when the person's body had gotten smaller, okay, and the flesh had gotten off the bones a little bit, and there was bones left, skulls, they would take the person and they would put them inside of like a big pot unit, for like a big clay jar. And when they did that, they would take the person and then put them with the rest of their family. So it would keep the families, together. All right, they would keep the families together. All right. So let me look at this real quick to show you what I'm talking about. It has mortuary practices. And then I'm going to show you what people still do, the things that I just described. Okay, now if you look here, you see the bones. You see the clay jar that they would bury the people to put the bones in. Everybody see that? And for whatever reason, the Europeans that came and conquered Israel, they don't like to talk about these. They don't like to talk about this type of burial. Okay, they don't like to talk about this type of burial. Why, I don't know. All right, but I can't really go. I don't really have the time right now to look for the sentences where they talk about the burial pots. But again, the book is called The Archaeology of Society in the Holy Land. All right, so when you look at that book and you go into chapter 17, social structure in the early Bronze IV period in Palestine. All right, tombs and mortuary practices. All right, so in this book, again, it shows and tells you how they buried the people. These tombs contained rather stereotypical band-combed pottery, bones inside of it right there. So just to bring it up to time, when you look at the tribe of Asher in the Guajira Peninsula, Guajira, which is divided between Colombia, the Guajira Peninsula, divided between Colombia and Venezuela. Venezuela on the east and Colombia on the west. There's a group of a family of Asherite families there. There's a group of Asherite families that are called the Wayu, Wayuu. They still practice this form of burial now. They practice this form of burial now. They still practice polygyny now. They still do shepherding now. Okay, they still make their colorful clothing where the young women cover their heads and the older women cover their heads now. So this is a culture you can go to now and see a lot of the practices that they do link back up to the Bible. Look it up. Expand beyond what you know and get new information to study that will compound what you know and give you a better general understanding and also show you about the Bible. So look at this book, check out burial rituals, mortuary practices of ancient Israel, and then look up the YU tribe, W-A-Y-U-U, and they did the same practices because they also are Israelites, all right? So we're in chapter 24, all right? Let's start with verse 1. Go ahead.
And Abraham was old and well stricken in age, and Yahweh blessed thee thy hand under my thigh. And I will make thee swear by Yahweh, the Elohai of heaven and the Elohai of earth, that thou shalt not take a wife unto my son of the daughters of the Canaanites, among whom I dwell.
So Abraham did not promise or an oath. Go ahead.
But thou shalt go unto my country and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son Isaac.
My country meaning the land where I came from, which was Haran. Haran, which was north of Israel, northeast of Israel, in what is now modern day Syria. Well, it's actually Turkish took it over, so it's modern day Turkey, but it's still a town there today called Haran, Haran. Look it up. Still a town there even to today. All right, go ahead.
And the servant said unto him,
Which is Eleazar, right? Go ahead.
peradventure the woman would not be willing to follow me into this land.
So he's asking this question, but he's not asking this question in the sense of he's not really going to put his heart into doing it. But the contrary, what he's saying is, what if Yahweh doesn't answer me and I don't see a woman for your son? Because remember Eleazar, who was a Gentile, in charge of Abraham's household, was in charge of all the sons and the daughters and the children of Abraham, right? So he's going to pray to Yahweh. So he's saying, not by my own will, if it can't be done, but what if it's not the will of Yahweh? Because we see as we progress in the historical account that he prayed to Yahweh and said, Yahweh, please show me this woman. Let this woman, and he prayed very specifically, and Yahweh answered his prayer. All right, go ahead.
And the servant said unto him,
What did the servant say?
peradventure the woman will not be willing to follow me.
What if the woman I find doesn't want to marry your son? She doesn't want to follow me. She doesn't agree to the terms of the marriage. What happens then? Go ahead.
Must thou needs bring thy son again unto the land from whence thou camest?
So if she doesn't want to marry him, do I then bring him to Haran so that the women can see how good he looks, how handsome, how intelligent, how strong he is? Because that definitely would be enough for them to be like, hey, I will marry Isaac. This is what the servant is saying. Read.
And Abraham said unto him,
What Abraham said? Go ahead.
beware that thou bring not my son thither again.
Do not under any circumstances take my son Isaac up to that place. Don't take him up to that place. Abraham didn't want Isaac going up there. Abraham didn't want Isaac going up there. Go ahead.
Yahweh Elohai of heaven, which took me from my father's house, and from the land of my kindred, which spake unto me, and which spake unto me, and that sware unto me, saying, unto thy seed will I give this land. He shall send his angel before thee, and thou shalt take a wife unto my son from thence.
So he's saying, Yahweh is going to send a messenger before you. I got faith. The Most High is going to send a messenger before you, and you're going to get a wife from there. Why doesn't he want him going back up to Haran? Because the blessing is, the Most High have told him, this land is for you and your children. So let's not waste any more generations in another place. It may be hard, it may be difficult, it may be challenging, but what the Most High has put before you as the blessing of your labors, that's what you need to put your energy into, and stop wasting time in Haran. Leave Haran and look toward the promised land. Leave Haran and look toward your inheritance. Leave Haran and look toward the legacy that was left by our father Abraham and his descendants through the Torah, and through Yahweh Shi HaMashiach. Khan? So this is something that we are learning. It's no longer about Haran. It's about what is the blessing. Now, was it easy for Abraham? Was it easy for Isaac? No, it was difficult for them. But they still walked the right way. Now, they might have said, times is hard right now. We got to go down into Egypt. We got to go on another territory, but they came back home. Sometimes the Most High had to give them a push to go back home, to go back to that territory that the Most High promised them. All right. So he said, don't bring my son back. That woman you're going to find a woman to be his wife. And the Most High is going to send a messenger. And what's that messenger going to do? It's going to, okay, which woman? The messenger is going to say, marry him. Marry him. But the messenger is going to be like, you know what? The way this woman's personality is right here. How she acts. How she talks, how her spirit is. She's the one that can fulfill the prayer that Eliezer is going to offer to Yahweh. So you don't know what's going on to be answered when you want it to be answered, but if it's the Yahweh's will, if it's the Most High's will, it will get answered. I read.
And if the woman will not be willing to follow them, then thou shalt be clear from this my oath. Only bring not my son thither again.
So whatever happens, don't take my son up there. We'll figure it out. But don't take my son up there. If she don't want to follow you, we can't do anything about that, so it is what it is. But don't take him up there again. Why? I want him to occupy this land. I want him to occupy the fleet, the flocks and the sheep. I don't want him leaving out of here, going someplace else and getting comfortable and settled. So a lot of people have a tendency to get comfortable and settled in situations that's not part of Yahweh's plan. That they've created in their own mind, this is what I'm going to do. But if you marry, if you're a son or a daughter, if you are an employee, if you are under elders and under judges, your directive comes from above you. But a lot of our people in society now, they just make their own rules, their own plans, how they want to do things, regardless of the examples that we see in the Bible. They're full of their own intentions. But your intention has to, it's easy, your intention has to align itself with who is your superior. Who is your superior? Who do you take orders from? A lot of us, we take orders from ourselves. We may help people or listen to what people say, but at the end of the day, a lot of people just serve themselves. They're their own master. They're their own servants. Nobody can tell them what to do when push comes to shove. They're making their own ultimate and final decisions, and that's fine. If that's the structure that Yahweh has approved for your vocation or for your gender. But if it's not something that's approved for your gender and your vocation in Yahweh's ancient Hebrew culture, then you out of order. You off. See, we create structures that aren't biblical. We create structures that aren't ancient. In the ancient Israel, when you were under a teacher, that was it. You were under that teacher. What that teacher said to do, you had to do. Period. Read how the ancient so-called rabbis and ancient leaders and ancient teachers of ancient Israel operated, and you'll see for yourself. We've created a whole kind of independent church type of situation to where I'm in charge of my own personal life. You give me direction from the Bible. I listen to you teach. Then when it's over, I might break you off some bread or give you some money or some tithes or offering, but you can't come through my door and tell me what to do. That's not a spiritual leader. That's like you paying somebody to provide a service for you. That's a service. When you can make your own final decision without nobody overturning your decision, but you giving that person money and whatever, they're giving you a service and you paying for that service out of a sense of obligation or commitment to whatever cause they represent. It's not like that with a family. You tell your son or your daughter to do something, you expect them to do it. If you tell your wife to do something, if the father tells me what to do, my father tells me what to do, he expects me to do it, even at my age of 48. He expects me to do it. And I'll do it as much as is in the power of my hands and the resources I can muster up and gather together, I will make it happen. If I can't, I'll tell him I'm having a hard time making this happen, but I'm trying. I can't do that. I'm not going to talk to him. That's the same attitude we have to have with each other in that chain of command. The Most High is about order. The Most High Yahweh is about order. So that servant is trying his best, and he's looking at different scenarios and what to do if that scenario comes up. Go ahead.
And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham.
Meaning he agreed to the oath. Go ahead.
And sware to him concerning that matter. And the servant took 10 camels.
10 camels.
Of the camels of his master, and departed. For all the goods of his master were in his hand. And he arose and went to Mesopotamia.
So he came into Mesopotamia. He took 10 camels loaded with things and went into Mesopotamia. Go ahead.
Unto the city of Nahor. And he made his camels to kneel down without the city by a well of water at the time of the evening, even the time that women go out to draw water. And he said, O Yahweh Elohai, my master Abraham, I pray thee, send me good speed this day, and show kindness unto my master. So now he's praying to Abraham's God. He's praying to Yahweh. Allah Shadiyah. Go ahead. Behold, I stand here by the well of water, and the daughters of the men of the city come out to draw water. So the daughters came out to get the water. They were expected to go get the water. And the water wasn't light. A jug of water weighs 5 pounds. And if they got the little stick with the 2 things of water on each side, that's heavy. So they went out to the well to get the water. And they brought the water back into their house. So for 4 gallons of water, that's 20 pounds. So sometimes they would have to make multiple trips. And they had different devices that they would use to bring the water to the house that made it, lighter to move. And then they had other servants under the household, other women under the household that would go and help get the water also. So it's a social thing. Women at the well, what are they going to do? They're going to be talking. So it's time to catch up. It was like what they say, the drinking well or the fountain at the office or whatever. So they were talking, oh yeah, what's going on with you? Oh yeah, I tried this new fruit. Oh yeah, did you know if you take so-and-so and you mix it with so-and-so, you get this color for your dye? Yeah. And what happened with this? Oh yeah, my puppy and blah, blah, blah. And my room, and I got a new tapestry, whatever. They would talk, I got some new needles too. So they would talk and have conversation at this well. So it's a social event. So he's thinking about what to do. And he's not making something so difficult and outrageous. Go ahead. And let it come to pass that the damsel to whom I shall say, let down thy pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink. And she shall say, drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. The one that's respectable and humble and is willing to go the extra mile when you ask her to do something. See, this is the character and the nature we see in Sarah. How do we see it in Sarah?
I can't have children going. The problem wasn't Sarah wanting Abraham to have other wives. The problem was that the additional wives that got added into the family was disrespectful toward the wife that was there before them. It was a breach in a relationship. She got all, sedity, and not sedity necessarily, but kind of uppity, like you can't tell me what to do. And she got disrespectful towards Sarah. Not that she was a Gentile, but that they had a respectable relationship. And then once she figured, well, I'm having sex with Abraham too now. So we on the same level. You can't really, she was looking at her disrespectfully. So Abraham having a second wife wasn't the issue. Sarah being okay with it wasn't the issue. It was the woman that Sarah gave to Abraham. Her mind and her spirit wasn't lined up with the rules and regulations of Abraham's household. You see? What does it say in Genesis 18 and 19? For I know Abraham, that he will command his children and his household after him. If Hagar was walking in the commands of the household that she was in and becoming deeper into, it wouldn't have been no problem. So the solution and the problem is always based on the Torah. Is always based on the Torah, the commands. So now Sarah says, well, you know what? I can't have children. Go into my maid, Hagar, make her your wife. So she went above and beyond the call of duty. She sacrificed her needs and her wants and her desires to build up the household. Now look at the nature that Rebecca has. Rebecca says, you know what? Not only will I give you water that you asked me for, I will give you a camel water. Not only will I give you a camel water, read that part again.
And it shall come to pass that the damsel to whom I sent, let down thy pitcher, I pray thee, that I may drink.
So the woman that I asked water of, go ahead.
And she shall say.
And she voluntarily says this, go ahead.
Drink.
You drink, I will give you drink, go ahead.
And I will give thy camels drink.
And I give water to all 10 of these camels too. Above and beyond. See, Abraham trusted in the Most High. Whatever Yahweh said to do, he trusted in him. Yahweh showed him, go here, Abraham. Abraham got up and went. And in doing that, Abraham had to fight. His nephew got kidnapped. I got to go get my nephew. He's a prisoner of war. Most High said, kill my son. I'm going to kill my son. Abraham has these personal struggles that don't include his wife, that just include him doing what Yahweh said to do. Now, the wife struggle, Sarah's struggle, was more emotional. Hagar's struggle was more emotional. Rebecca's struggle is more emotional. Am I going to get all these? Man, nah. I'm not going to give 10 camels water. That's taking too long. Who knows the camels drink a lot of water? They drink a lot of water. And they just came from this long trip. See, the fat that's inside the back of the camel doesn't change the water per se, but it can get converted into fat, into water. That fat can come from the water, and it sustains the camel during a long trip. It sustains the camel. So it's like, I think the water gets like absorbed in it, like stored in it or something. I don't know. But either way, that hump helps the camel. And that's why they want what? What they call the dromedaries. Those were the camels that had the 2 humps. Okay? Those are the camels that had the 2 humps. Let me see if they got animals in here. Let me show you the dromedary. Okay. I don't see dromedaries in here. But either way, the dromedaries were the camels that I believe they're the camels that got the two humps, right? They're the camels with the two humps. So they can go longer distances without water. So now she has to also be willing, without being asked, to go that extra mile, to serve the household that he's praying that she comes into. You see? Praying that she would voluntarily give unto the household that she's coming into. Is she a generous woman, or is she a selfish hag? Is she generous or selfish? Is she willing to say, you know what? My time is yours. My water in my hands and whatever I need to get this done is yours. It's yours. So is she gonna say it's yours? Or is she gonna say, I give you some water? No, I don't know you. I don't know you. What you mean, can I give you some water? Stranger danger, nigga, like, stranger danger. See, back then, remember, at this time, they had guards. People couldn't just run up on somebody. Now, in the case of Moses, as we're going to see, with the people of the land of Midian, they were out with the shepherds away. It wasn't at the city, inside the city boundaries, inside the city area, okay? Rebecca, with Abakwa, she's in the city area. She's going from her house to get some water. So there's people out there, there's men, guards for the city also. Guards for that area also. In Haran. Remember, Haran was a big place. Okay? And if you go to Haran today, incidentally, you still have like the big houses that were made out of like hives, where the cool air comes down and the hot air just rises up and goes to the hive, the top of the hive, like a cone type shape, but circular. We'll look at some later. So he says, the woman that's going to give me and the camels the water. Go ahead.
Let the same be she that thou hast appointed for thy servant Isaac.
I will know then that this is the woman you want Isaac to marry, when she's the one that's going to voluntarily give up the water for all of the camels. Go ahead.
And thereby shall I know that thou hast showed kindness unto my master.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Not me. Even him, everything's going back to Abraham. He prayed to Yahweh on the strength of his master, who is Abraham, father of a multitude. And Abraham is his master, is his head. Wasn't no shame in that. Abraham is his head. See, the woman ain't the only one that has a head. See, a man would be real quick to say, I'm the head. But then he think, well, I'm the head of my household, can't nobody tell me nothing. You may have a point, but what type of attitude is that for you to have, though? Because Eleazar, you understand, saw Abraham as his master. Daniel saw Nebuchadnezzar as his master. Joseph saw Potiphar and all them guys that was over him as his masters. So now we come into Yasharallah, we think, oh, the buck stop with us. I'm going to get my own camp. I'm going to just worry about my own family, and can't nobody tell me nothing. Except for the guys that I decide to put under me in my camp. They can tell me something. But this guy that got a camp over here, camp over here, camp over here, I'm not going to unite with these guys that have no counsel where we work out our differences in doctrine and we try to help and govern each other righteously. Even if you don't have another man over you, what counsel is over half of these men out here? Half of these organizations and camps? No, the buck stops with them. They get directions from the Holy Spirit for the Most High and Christ directly, and they just do, nah. That ain't what we see in the scriptures. Now, if you have a patriarchal system, even Abraham as a patriarch had to go to the leaders of the area he lived in about this land deal. He wasn't just doing it on his own. But then Abraham had men that he had delegated that were righteous, that were under him, a part of his household. See, a lot of us have taught men and brought men into the understanding that Yahweh gave us, and we've given it to other men. And the other men turn around and piss on you, crap all over you, disregard what you said, what you taught, and then go out and start freelancing and doing their own thing without no regard or respect to the tree that they come from. And this is not the characteristic that we see in the scriptures. This is not the nature of a humble man that's trying to walk in righteousness. All right, keep going.
And it came to pass, before he had done speaking, that behold, Rebekah came out.
So Abraham's level of wisdom was so strong that before he finished speaking, what happened?
That behold, Rebekah came out, who was born to Bethuel, son of Milcah, the wife of Nahor, Abraham's brother, with her pitcher upon her shoulder.
So this is basically Isaac's cousin. It is nothing wrong with a cousin marrying another cousin. I know society says not to, but what they don't tell you is that in the ancient royal families of Europe, the cousins married each other to keep other families from coming into the family trying to take over. The cousins would marry each other, and that's lawful. The list of who you can marry and who you can't marry is found in Leviticus chapter 18 and in Leviticus chapter 20. So first cousins, second, third, whatever cousins, ninth removed, they can get married. Go ahead.
And the damsel was very fair to
Meaning she was very beautiful to what?
to look upon.
So you looked at her like, man, she's beautiful. Go ahead.
A virgin.
A virgin, meaning she'd never known a man. So now we see principles being laid down, but the principles that we see laid down in the Bible for marriages are primarily geared toward women that have not had any intimate contact with other creatures, male or female. It's the same, you got to say female. But these are women that have not dealt with any other man. Everybody understand that? These are women that are pure. She's a pure woman. Nobody's dealt with her sexually or intimately yet. Isaac is going to be the first man that she's going to know in an intimate way. Okay, go ahead.
Neither had any man known her. And she went down to the well and filled her pitcher and came up. And the servant ran to meet her and said, Let me, I pray thee, drink a little water of that pitcher.
So the servant ran to meet her. So he like, man, this woman is beautiful. Let me run up here real quick. I hope she the one. He ran up to her. Like, I want to run to you. Ooh, I want to run to you. Ooh. It was Whitney Houston. All right, so he ran up there. She was beautiful. And he ran up to her and said, can I get some of that water from that pitcher? Go ahead.
And she said, Drink, my lord.
Drink, my lord. She said, drink, Adanya. She said, drink, my lord. Go ahead.
And she hasted and let down her pitcher upon her hand.
So she pasted down her pitcher upon her hand. All right. So she went down to fill her pitcher, but then she's bringing the pitcher back up now. She's filling the pitcher, now she's going down to fill the pitcher, and then she gave him something to drink. Put some water in it and gave him something to drink. And go ahead.
And when she had done giving him drink, she said, I will draw water for the camels also.
So when she gave him something to drink, she said, oh, I gave you something to drink, but you know what? I'm going to give it to your camels also. All right? Just like he prayed for. Just like Eleazar prayed for, she was going to do exactly that. So now he sees this is the one. All right, he sees this is the one. All right, I don't know what that was about. He says, this is the one. She passed the test. She's what? She's an answer to my prayers. She's an answer to my prayers. This is the one. You know? Before we went, we said, Lord, please bring us 2 sisters from this village to marry my sons and let them ask to take pictures with my sons. Then we get to the village and 2 girls come and say, can we take pictures with you all? And we say, these are the ones that the sons are supposed to marry. All right? Now, I ain't saying Yahweh is doing all of that now because we ain't on the same level as Abraham. We have to look at Abraham and what he's doing in the lifestyle he's living, and then we have to imitate him. We have to do the things that Abraham is doing. We have to walk the lifestyle that Abraham is walking, and most of all, we see that Abraham became Yahweh's friend because of what? Because of Chakma. Because we see that Chakma is what makes us friends of Abraham. If you are not reading the Proverbs and living your life according to what the Proverbs say to do, in addition to the Torah, then you're not walking in Chakma wisdom. You got to be walking in her commandments, and the commandments of the Torah, of the Torah. Everybody understand that? So we see the stipulation to get these prayers answered is you have to be walking in Chakma. Okay? You have to be walking in Chakma. 7. We got 7 pillars for Chakma. And the second pillar commands you to humble yourself under somebody to learn. The first one is knowledge. That's all around. You can have a house full of books and libraries, right? But the second pillar is what? Instruction. To correct you, to guide you the right way, to be taught, to learn what it is and what you have to do. And the third pillar of Chakma is understanding, clearing out the falsehoods that you had, being able to explain and to have the details of that instruction, to answer and to ask questions properly, to compound your instruction. You need to get understanding. And then once you get the understanding, you go into the 4th pillar, and we're going to stop there. The 4th pillar of wisdom, which is discretion. Mahzama. The plan. How is this applicable? What needs to be done? How do I use it? So Abraham was a master at all of these and the 3 other pillars of wisdom, and then he walked in wisdom, meaning he executed and made decisions. And I keep telling everybody, it's available and open to you. You just have to decide to walk the right way and to do it the right way and to live it. That's all. No matter how old or young you are. Once you start to read the Proverbs and walk in them and live in them, the Most High follows up with giving you more chakma. So now he sees he can trust you. And the younger you are when you start, the better. We can get it when we're older, but the younger you are when you start to do it, the better. Okay, continue reading. So the strength of Abraham's wisdom, the Most High has listened to the prayers of his servant, who had to also be an upright man. Read. Call your verse.
Verse 20. And she hasted and emptied her pitcher into the trough, and ran again unto the well to draw water, and drew for all his camels.
So she was just taking a pitcher, filling up. The trough is the place, the long tray. It's like a long, wide, and narrow bowl that you put the water into it, and the camels, they drink from it. So she's filling up this trough. Go ahead.
And the man, wondering at her, held his peace, to wit whether Yahweh had made his journey prosperous or not.
So he's like, man, is this the woman? I know the Most High answers prayers, but is this the answer to my prayer? Because it happened, it happened real fast. So he's like, was this the answer to my prayer or not? All right. Go ahead.
And it came to pass, as the camels had done drinking, that the man took a golden earring of half a shekel weight.
So he took an earring of half a shekel of weight. That's the earring was like the jewel for the forehead. Go ahead.
And two bracelets.
Two bracelets to put on her arm. Go ahead.
For her hands, of 10 shekels weight of gold. And said, whose daughter art thou?
So whose daughter are you? So he gave her jewelry. He said, whose daughter are you? Go ahead.
Tell me, I pray thee, is there room in thy father's house for us to lodge?
And does your father's house have room for us, 10 camels, and myself, and the men that are with me, to lodge, to stay in? Go ahead.
And she said unto him,
What'd she say?
I am the daughter of Bethuel,
I'm the daughter of Bethuel,
the son of Milcah, which she bare unto Nahor.
So she's saying basically, I'm from Torah's family. Go ahead.
She said moreover unto him, we have both straw and provender.
We have enough straw and food. Go ahead.
Enough and room to lodge in.
We have enough room for all y'all. So they had a nice, a fair-sized estate to accommodate strangers, to host people, because it was considered to be an honor for you to host somebody in your house. It's considered to be an honor, all right, for you to help somebody that was traveling. It was a blessing for you to have them in your house. Go ahead.
And the man bowed down his head and worshipped Yahweh.
So the man bowed down to the Most High and thanked the Most High. Go ahead.
And he said, Blessed be Yahweh, Elohai of my master Abraham, who hath not left destitute my master of his mercy and his truth. I, being in the way, Yahweh led me to the house of my master's brethren.
Yahweh led him and gave his prayer an answer that was good for his mission. Go ahead.
And the damsel ran and told him of her mother's house these things. And Rebekah had a brother, and his name was Laban. And Laban ran out to meet the man unto the well.
So Laban came out the house now. Now remember, Laban is also our father too, right? Because Laban is the counterpart of Laban is our father because he is the father of Rachel and Leah. He's the father of Rachel and Leah. But he's also the sister, Rebecca is his sister. So he was our uncle, he was our father through Rachel and Leah. Everybody understand that? But then we married into his family again when Jacob went and got his daughters which were his first cousins. Rachel and Rebecca and Laban are brother and sister. Laban has daughters, Rachel and Leah. Okay? And then Rachel has sons, Esau and Jacob. So those two are brother and sister. So now Rebecca has a baby, Jacob, and then Rebecca's brother, Laban, has two daughters, which are the nieces of Rebecca. And Jacob is the nephew of Laban. So these two are first cousins. Rachel and Jacob are first cousin, and Rachel's sister Leah and Jacob are first cousins. So they married the first cousins. All right? They married their first cousin. Jacob was their first cousin. All right, but anyway, before we get to Jacob, let's finish up with Jacob's father, Isaac. All right? So now, go finish reading.
And it came to pass,
Mm-hmm.
when he saw the earring and the bracelets.
When he looked on the material wealth that this man had just given them, all right, he looked at the material wealth. He said, man, this guy look at this bracelet, look at this earring. I could really be marrying into a family that has some money. Maybe that thought crossed his mind. Would it cross your mind? When somebody wants to marry somebody in your family, and they just gave the relative in your family a bunch of nice gold jewelry, when you think to yourself, man, that's a nice gold jewelry, right? Now go ahead.
Upon his sister's heads. And when he heard the words of Rebekah, his sister, saying, Thus spake the man unto me, that he came unto the man, and behold, he stood by the camels of the well. And he said, Come in, thou blessed of Yahweh. Wherefore standest thou? For I have prepared the house and room for the camels. And the man came into the house, and he ungirded his camels, and gave straw and provender to the camels.
Provender meaning, he provided food. Provender was provided to eat.
And water to wash his feet,
Mm-hmm.
and the men's feet that were with him.
Right.
And there was set meat before him to eat, but he said, I will not eat until I have told mine errand.
So he said, I can't really eat the food yet, man, until I get my mission underway, until I complete the first part of my task. So it was what? No time for relaxation, no time for small talk, no time to be about his own pleasure. His own needs were always second. Even he included the water for the camels in his prayer. Even he gets to the house now and can eat, he says, no, I don't want to eat yet. Because I want to make sure that my mission, that you are the ones that the Most High is sending me to, before I sit here and eat your food and take up too much of your time. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to waste your time. So let's get right down to it. Stop wasting time. Read.
And he said,
What did he say?
Speak on. And he said, I am Abraham's servant.
I'm Abraham's servant. Go ahead.
And Yahweh hath blessed my master greatly,
Mm-hmm.
and he has become great. And he hath given him flocks, and herds, and silver, and gold,
Mm-hmm.
and manservants, and maidservants, and camels, and asses. And Sarah, my master's wife, bare a son to my master when she was old, and unto him hath he given all that he hath. And my master made me swear, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife to my son of the daughters of the Canaanites,
Right.
in whose land I dwell.
Mm-hmm.
But thou shalt go into my father's house, and to my kindred, and take a wife unto my son.
Go ahead.
And I said unto my master, Peradventure the woman will not follow me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said unto me, Yahweh before whom I walk will send his angel with thee, and prosper thy way. And thou shalt take a wife for my son of my kindred, and of my father's house. Then shalt thou be clear from this my oath,
Right.
when thou comest to my kindred.
Mm-hmm.
And if they give not thee one, thou shalt be clear from my oath.
If you don't get a wife, don't worry about it. Go ahead.
And I came this day unto the well, and said, O Yahweh Elohai of my master Abraham, if now thou do prosper my way which I go, behold, I stand by the way, by the well of water. And it shall come to pass that when the virgin cometh forth to draw water, and I say to her, give me, I pray thee, a little water with a pitcher to drink. And she say to me, both drink thou, and I will also draw for thy camels. Let the same be the woman whom Yahweh hath appointed out of my master's son. And before I had done speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came forth with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down into the well and drew water. And I said unto her, let me drink, I pray thee. And she made haste and let down her pitcher from her shoulder.
So she was working fast. So the guy, he stopped her. She was on another mission, and she stopped what she was doing to help somebody else, a stranger. Go ahead.
And said, drink, and I will give thy camels drink also.
And she saw the need, she assessed the situation, and she saw that she could help him even more, and she volunteered to help. Go ahead.
So I drank, and she made the camels drink also. And I asked her and said, whose daughter art thou? And she said, the daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bare to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I put the earring upon her face, and the bracelets upon her hands. And I bowed down my head and worshipped Yahweh. And I blessed Yahweh Elohai my master Abraham, which had led me in the right way, to take my master's brother's daughter unto his son.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if ye will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, tell me, that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said,
And Laban was the brother. Bethuel is the father of Rebekah. Go ahead.
the thing proceedeth from Yahweh. We cannot speak unto thee good or bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee.
So he said, well, this is what the Most High said. It is what it is. Go ahead.
Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife, as Yahweh had spoken.
Right?
And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he worshipped Yahweh, bowing himself to the earth. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold.
So these were tokens that were exchanged out of honor and respect and agreement of the marriage. But a lot of times, a lot of modern women, they remove themselves from being able to do that because they go out and just start having sex with whatever guy they meet and lose their virginity. Or they get raped and lose their virginity. Or they get drunk and lose their virginity. And then they go to another guy and they keep having sex. So they can never enter into Rebekah's footsteps. Because the family and the society is not preserving the chastity and the sanctity of the marriage and of the virginity. They're making merchandise of people wanting to have sex. What they're selling. Deodorant. All right, the deodorant for Old Spice. Got the Israelite brother with no shirt on, riding a horse with his muscles flexing for Old Spice. You see? So they have all these different things that put the mind of the young woman and the young man on wanting to be intimate with another young woman and young man. And they end up polluting and defiling their bodies. And the Most High warned us that if your daughter, if she's bashful, if she's not bashful, if she's loud, if she's bold, if she runs her mouth, if she talks back, get her in check, or else she's going to be out there and have a baby by somebody while she's in her father's house. That's exactly what the scripture says, and that's exactly what happens in our societies. the woman goes out there, the girl goes out there rather, starts having sex. The father lets her go to school, go to clubs, and she be in his house. And he feel like, I can't tell her what to do. She grown. And that's one of the problems, that they think they can't tell their children what to do because the daughter is grown. All right? But your father can always command the children in righteousness, and they must obey. Now, when she marries a man, now that same respect and reverence that they had for, not even for the father, but for the Most High, the woman supposed to have for her man. Because when the scripture says, see that the wife reverence her husband, and then it says, fear the Most High. Fear meaning what I say to do, you children of Israel, do it. Reverence meaning what I say to do, you children of Israel, or you wife, do it. Why do I say that? Because reverence and fear in the Hebrew is the same word for the woman and for our responsibility to the Most High. Everybody understand that? So it's not a separate set of rules that, oh, well, that's my husband, I don't really got to listen to what he said to do. Even the scripture says, submit and obey your husband in all things. Even it says, as unto the Lord. So that's what the woman is supposed to do. Now, you cannot do that. It's your prerogative. But there's going to be a spiritual consequence for you being out of order with the chain of command that Yahweh Elohim has established. Okay. I keep reading.
And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold.
So he started just blessing everybody. Here go the silver, here go the gold. Why? Because Abraham was willing to invest in your future. He was willing to invest in your future. He was willing to pay the price to make sure that he had a righteous family set up for his son with no problems with anybody. Go ahead.
And raiment, and gave them to Rebekah.
Mm-hmm.
He gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things. And they did eat and drink.
So he's giving to everybody jewelry, nice things, right? Go ahead.
And they did eat and drink, he and the men that were with him.
Once they concluded the deal, him and his whole entourage, they sat down to eat. Go ahead.
And tarried all night.
So they waited and stayed there all night. This is Ecclesiastes 42:9. The father wakes for his daughter when no man knoweth, and the care for her taketh away sleep. When she is young, he cares for her. Because if he doesn't, what's going to happen? Lest she pass away the flower of her age. Means she starts her cycle, and then she's old and she's not married. And being married, so he still cares for her when she's married, lest she should be hated. So he's thinking about his daughter in that marriage. So the father is training and teaching the daughter. No, you don't talk like that. You don't do this. So these daughters are, who's teaching the daughters how to be wives? For the most part, in our communities, is the mother. An example they set could be a little better in most instances across the board of all the tribes, all the religions, all the ethnicities. So then the Most High showed us that the father is directing and guiding the daughters also through the example and through conversation. Okay? The scripture says, in her virginity, so in her virginity, the father is caring for her and taking care of her and teaching her, lest she should be defiled, meaning she lose her virginity, and gotten with child, she gets pregnant in her father's house, meaning she's not married, She's in a whole nother relationship with a whole nother boyfriend and got a baby with this one, then a baby with this one. And if she don't got the baby, she at the abortion clinic murdering her baby. And if she ain't murdering her baby, unmarried, having sex with a man, she putting all types of chemicals, all types of devices, all types of shots in her body because she don't want a baby. She just want to feel good from sex, but don't want no children, don't want a baby. You see, but that wasn't even an equation in the biblical times. You had the baby. So she had the baby in her father's house and having a husband. So you teach the daughter to help her have a husband. What? Lest she should misbehave herself, meaning you having sex with men, not making them your husband, not entering into any type of betrayal. See, the shame is not to have sex with a man that's not your husband. The shame is to have sex with a man that cannot become and that will not become and that doesn't want to be your husband. We see that from what? Exodus 22:16. If a man shall entice a maid does not betroth and lie with her, see, they had sex, then he has to pay the father. In the ideal situation, the father receives the payment, the daughter becomes the man's wife. If that doesn't happen, that's going against the proper and just way to handle the situation. Okay? It says, lest she pass with the flower of her age, married in her virginity, lest she should be defiled God without her father's house, and having a husband, lest she should be misbehave herself. And when she is married, lest she should be barren. So what is the Bible telling us? Married, lest she should be barren. The Bible is telling us that the problems women have with their womb, a lot of these problems come from too many visitors, too many pregnancies, too many abortions, too many miscarriages, and these things being due to too many sex partners, too many different men, too many different men going inside the woman's womb. And that's what the Bible's telling us is the problem. Being married, it says, and being married, lest she should be barren. Now she can't have children now. Why? Because the womb is messed up. Her womb is messed up. Then the woman, oh, well, I'll fix that. I'm going to get the tubal ligation. I'm going to have the doctor go in there in my fallopian tubes where my eggs drop down at so they can get fertilized. I'm going to cut that tube. The doctor's going to burn it or he's going to tie it together and I'm not going to get pregnant no more. I can just have sex with no babies. When you had people in the Bible, women in the Bible, that were begging the Most High to have babies, begging the Most High to open up their womb, begging the Most High to be able to have children. And our men and women have turned into such whoremongers and whores that they praying for the Most High not to have children because they know that the lifestyle that they're living is not compatible with trusting in a man, trusting in your wife, and trusting in Yahweh, so they'd rather not have children at all. But that's not what we see in the Bible. As the righteous example, we see the righteous example from Rebekah. We see the righteous example that there was an understanding about this marriage. There was, take her to my people. What did he mean, take her to my people? Get the woman from my people. Because we all know the rules of the game with marriage and relationships. We coming from the same fathers. We know what marriage is. But now you got a woman that grew up with her mother and with her father, and grew up with her grandfather and grandmother, marrying a man that was raised in a foster home where he was sexually abused and molested for 6 years. Now he's an Israelite. Now he said, I want to marry this woman from this good family background where he don't know nothing about being a husband, but he act like it's the woman's fault. And he started hitting her and beating her and whooping on her because she ain't doing things and responding in a way that he see this dysfunctional system working when he's growing up. And she like, what am I doing wrong? I don't know. That's why you have to have an understanding on what is marriage, biblical marriage, before you marry somebody. If not, you asking yourself for problems. You asking for trouble because they don't understand the way you understand, and it's not going to work righteously. Everybody understand that? So the Bible and the parameters of the Bible is what you must understand. The Torah is what you must. You got to be the best wife, loving, compassionate, humble, submissive, but then you feeding the man pork lard. You feed the man beef fat, not from the meat, but from the sebo, from the suet, from the tallow. You feed the man shrimp and lobster and crab. You buy them Christmas presents, and you buy them presents for New Year's and for going trick-or-treating for the kids and all of that. That ain't the biblical way. So the woman and the man have to be educated in what? The Torah. In the Torah, the Torah. Once you're educated in the Torah, then you're ready for marriage. If you're not educated in the Torah, you may not be ready to be nobody's wife. You got to be educated and taught and learn first. Why gamble? You have to be like Abraham did with his servant. What did he do? He invested. He invested in Rebekah. So you have to invest time. The most valuable thing we have is not the gold or the silver, but it's the chakmah, it's the wisdom. So you have to invest in that woman's chakmah, invest in that woman's wisdom. Invest in her being like Rebekah, being like Sarah, not like Hagar. Not like Hagar, but being like Sarah, selfless, willing to give for the building of the household. Rebekah, willing to go that extra mile and to help out. Even if it's hard, I'm going to do what I need to do to serve the household. Where's that woman at? And the man has to be like Eleazar, be like Abraham, be like Isaac, willing to defend, willing to give, willing to shape and mold and sacrifice for the building up of his household also, not just sit back, you do this, you do that, you do that. You see, but to lead by example. And these are the moral lessons that we see from the Torah in Chayei, from the life of our mother, Sarah. Now we're moving into our next mother, which is Rebekah. That's also showing us what? The example. Let's jump ahead and move into Rachel. Did Rachel say, or did Rachel say, that's not fair? He ain't supposed to be married to my sister. She said, okay, he gonna marry me after the 7th day. Bam. Now he married to me. Now my husband is gonna keep working, and when did she complain? When did she complain that he was married to her sister? When did Rachel ever complain that, oh, he's married to my sister? What was her complaint? What was her complaint? Her complaint was, he ain't giving me no babies. Would that be a woman's complaint now? The husband got a wife and got children with his wife. Is another woman going to want to be that man's wife, first of all? And when she becomes that man's wife, is she going to be jealous that he's spending time with that woman? Or is she going to have a problem because I want babies too? I want to have a baby like she got babies for you, husband. Or is it gonna be, oh, why you do this for her? Why you say this to her? Why you look at this for her? Why you go this place for her? Wasn't none of that when you read the scriptures. The problem was, hey, I want babies too. So can you give me babies like you gave her the babies? That was the issue that they wanted to work out. The babies, the children, to what? To build up the household. See, everything goes to build up the household. Because that's what's left behind. The household is what's left behind. The children, the assets. That's what's left behind. It's getting built up. See, you want to just have your children, kick them out the house, and want them to marry. All right? Want them to marry somebody. Marry a YouTuber or a TikToker, or marry somebody in the WNBA or the NFL. Just marry them off and go your way. But you ain't talking about building the community, the household. When I did like that, that's like the roof of the house, not like no symbol I'm throwing up. Maybe I was just building the house. Now I'm throwing up some other sign. Building the house, right? Square, building the house. Well, that could be a tent too. But I was thinking of a roof of a house. But building the house, Bayath, that's what you got to be doing. So everybody thinking about themselves and their own pleasure and what they want, but they're not thinking about the household of that man. It's not the woman's household, the legacy that's left behind. It's the household she joins and what she's helping to build up. You see? Chapter 42, verse 11. Keep a sure watch over a shameless daughter. Meaning you need to guard and protect her, because she's going to hurt herself. She's going to damage herself, but she got a smart mouth. She want to talk back. She always getting in trouble when she's young. You got to check that spirit when she's young. So when she's older, what happens? Lest she make thee a laughing stock to thine enemies. Oh yeah, look at this man's daughter, boy. She's doing stuff that makes the family, makes the people laugh at her, laugh at you. Okay? And a byword in the city. She's a tramp. She don't want skettel. Right? She don't want skettel. She's a hoe. She's a slut. She's a skank. Right? She's a woman of ill repute. She's a frontera. She's a puta. She's a prostituta. All these words, they did bywords for the woman, because you didn't keep a close eye on her when she was younger. So ultimately, the first part of the problem starts with the father not watching over his daughter, the brothers not watching over their sisters, the mothers not watching over their daughter, the uncles not watching over their nieces. That's where it starts at. And that's why they say it takes a village to raise a child, not just one person. Because if I tell you something, and then you can go outside in the street and not do what I tell you to do, that's a problem. But if I tell you something, or if my father tells me something, and then I can go on the streets, and the neighbors are looking like, okay, don't do that. You know your father told you not to do that. Or somebody says, yeah, I seen your son coming home. He was just, digging in his butt and eating boogers. And then was rubbing his hands on people. You getting a whooping for doing something nasty like that. But the neighbors like, I don't like their father anyway. I don't know their father. I ain't telling their father nothing. That's their business, old nasty trifling son that they raising. You're going to just grow up nasty and trifling because ain't nobody showing you the right way, because don't nobody know what you're doing outside of your household. But when everybody's focused in on that family, that's when the family becomes great. All right. So the scripture says, and a byword in the city. So it's about the whole city gonna know what this girl is doing. Bad words. And a reproach among the people, and make thee ashamed before the multitude. Nobody's ashamed no more. Woman got, man got 5 babies with 5 different women, ain't with none of them. His family don't care, ain't embarrassed. And the woman's family don't care, they ain't embarrassed. It's just a fact of life. Out there having sex and running around like rabbits on steroids. All right? So the Most High said you should be ashamed before the multitude if you are not raising your family to understand sexual chastity. So we understand that marriage with these virgin women was discussed and agreed amongst the family. And then the man and the woman had sex to solidify. That's the blessing of the marriage. Is the pleasure that comes with sleep. Wisdom of Solomon chapter 7, verse 1. I myself am a mortal man like unto all, and the offspring of him that was first made of the earth. And in my mother's womb was fashioned to be flesh in the time of 10 months, being compacted in blood of the seed of man, and the pleasure that came with sleep, meaning the enjoyment of a wife sleeping with her husband, which is coitus non-interruptus. And then from that coitus, a seed is planted. The zari is planted. And when the zari is planted, Solomon says, that's where I come from. My father's seed when he was having pleasure with my mother. You see. So now that's what we see Solomon saying. And it's for the man and the woman as a unit to get together for life. Let's go. Call where you at. Genesis 24. What verse?
Verse 54.
Go ahead.
And they eat and drink.
So they eating and drinking. They solidifying the deal. Go ahead.
He and all the men that are with him. And tarried all night.
Mm-hmm.
And they rose up in the morning and said, send me away unto my master.
So may I have permission to leave now? Give me leave. I'm to abide for a few more days. Let her just chill with us for a little more. We're going to miss her. Go ahead.
At the least 10.
At the least what?
10.
10 more days, you say. Stay for 10 more days. And during them 10 days, Eleazar's spending money, big balling, helping everybody out. You know what I'm saying? Lacing everybody, giving money away, buying stuff. He said, yo, I got to get back because my mission is complete. My mission is not to stay here with you for 10 days. My mission is to go back and take this beautiful woman back to my master. Excuse me. I think she was younger too because it calls her a damsel and it calls her a damsel, right? What else do it call her? Because usually a damsel was the naida, where she wasn't old enough yet, all right? Or it might have been the category that came after naida. But we'll look at the Hebrew. Go ahead.
After that, she shall go.
Can she stay 10 more days before you take her back down to Canaan land? Go ahead.
And he said unto them,
What'd he say?
hinder me not.
Yo, don't stress me, man. Like, don't even stop my movement. Movement, right? And does that song in the movie? Movement.
To my master. And they said, we will call the damsel and inquire at her mouth.
So now you're gonna call her. They done told him. They told him we're gonna stay 10 more days. See that right there? Huh? You say 10, I say I'm gonna go now. Well, let's call in the damsel. Well, why didn't you call in the damsel before you even suggested it? Huh? Why didn't you call on the damsel before you suggested it? I guess because we got a disagreement. Well, she belongs in my master's household now. What I got to ask her for? I'm the head steward in charge. I'm the HSIC. I'm in charge of the show. Go ahead.
And they called Rebekah
So they called Rebekah. What happened?
and said unto her, Wilt thou go with this man?
So will you go with the man? Go ahead.
And she said, I will go.
Yeah, I'm going to go. I'll go now. All right? So she said, well, if this is what he wants to, and he represents my master's Lord, her master now, she represents, my Lord's father, I'm going to go with what he wants to do. Read.
And they sent away Rebekah, their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant and his men.
Mm-hmm.
And they blessed Rebekah and said unto her, Thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions.
Thousands of millions. Go ahead. All of our enemies and possess their gates, meaning the borders of their cities and their governments is going to be controlled and operated and possessed by us. The Torah is going to be the law on the whole planet. The Torah is going to be law on the whole planet. You understand that? We're going to possess the Arabs' governments, the Hamite governments from Tanzania to Nigeria to Ghana to India. We're going to possess all of the governments of all of the world. So they're putting this blessing on her. Read.
And Rebekah arose and her damsels.
So she had women servants that was with her also. Remember her one woman servant's name was who? Deborah, right? Remember she died and they buried her by the oak tree, remember? When they was leaving from, when Abraham was leaving, when Jacob was leaving from Laban again, remember? Rebekah, it says Rebekah's nurse, Deborah died, remember that? So she was just with the family a generation after. So she saw Jacob be born, and she saw Jacob's children be born, and she was there helping them, man. Like a grandmother figure. A lot of times we don't have that right now. That's why a lot of times our women grow up without having no sense. And a man ain't no better because he growing up with nobody telling him what to do and how to do it the right way. But everybody wants to call themselves an expert in everything. But nobody have seen the example. Nobody have lived the example. And everybody doing the opposite of what the scriptures is showing us. We see transparency. See, we can criticize what people do now, but what do we see? All of these women had a very clear understanding of what Hebrew marriage was. And they knew about the family that they were joining. So they know, oh, he got other wives. They knew, he lives over here. Oh, this is the family that he married. They knew all of that. It wasn't just, yeah, I'm going to have sex with you, now you're my wife, and that's it. They were willing participants. They wasn't raped. They weren't forced. They weren't tricked. All the information was given to them from the gate. You understand? And then sometimes they had more information than the man that they were marrying. Like Rachel and Leah had more information than Jacob had. Oh, you got to marry Leah first. So he went in the tent and had sex with Leah, thinking it was Rachel. Then he married Rachel. And then took Bilhah and Zilpah to be his wives also. But everybody knew this is the culture. So you can't just go out there and grab a woman and say, okay, you're my wife now. I mean, you can physically do it, but it's going to hurt you because she don't know nothing about the Torah. She don't know nothing about this. Right? She don't know nothing about this. She don't know nothing about wisdom. All right? She don't know nothing about the dietary. All she know how to do is open her legs. And a lot of men are just taking advantage of those. She opened her legs for me, now she my wife. She may be your wife. She may have made that agreement with you, but how long is that going to last? So that's when you start making whores out of the daughters of Zion. Because you just woman, 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 woman. Each one is the same situation. Well, you know, if I have sex with my wife, yeah, okay, bam. Or I have sex with you, my wife now, bam, yeah, okay. Month, 2, 3, 4 months later, she go her way, he go his way. It's not a marriage. Righteous marriage that the Most High ordained for it to be done. Listen what they do. See, don't just look at what's going on with Rebecca or Sarah. Look at Abraham. Look at Isaac. Look at Jacob and how they conducted themselves in their relationships. You see? They knew what they were getting into. And these women were virgin, top-notch women. Wasn't just that the woman was rich. Wasn't just that the woman was beautiful. Wasn't just that the woman was humble and submissive. It was that the woman was a woman of the culture of the Hebrews and was walking in that culture. So that's how, you know, she had like a spiritual, if nothing else, she had a spiritual maturity about her. And our women now, or men now and women, are underdeveloped. They don't have the spiritual maturity to make decisions as adults. And that's why you see a lot of people be like, hee, ha, ha, with the children. Because the spiritual maturity is not there. I can understand you laugh and joke with your children, okay, but like, to the point where your child thinks that they can defy the rules of the household in your house and disrespect or disobey you behind your back and get away with it, and there's no major consequences? Nah, that ain't how family's supposed to be. The most I tell you, like, don't be all giddy, hee, ha, ha with your children too much. Okay? And that's what the scripture says. I keep reading before we be on here. That's too long, man. Go ahead, keep reading. What verse you in?
Verse 61. And Rebekah arose and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels and followed the man.
So they rode upon the camels, right? And they followed the man. Meaning they followed Eleazar. Okay, they followed Eleazar. And they went back on this caravan. Abraham, he was ready, boy. Abraham had the virtue stored up, walking in wisdom. Eleazar, like, yo, we about to get this wife. So he brought like more than enough for the trip. He had the gold ready, the bracelets, the earrings. He had the forehead jewels ready to go on deck. Because he's like, yo, it's about to go down. My wife, my master about to get a wife. So we got to be ready, yo. Go ahead. Let me read this real quick. This is Ecclesiasticus Sirach chapter 30. It says, actually keep reading. I'll come back to it. Keep reading.
And the servant took Rebekah and went his way.
So the servant took Rebekah and he went back to the land where Abraham was in ancient Israel or Canaan. Okay, go ahead.
And Isaac came from the way of the well.
So as he did what?
Isaac came from the way of the well.
He came from the way of the well. Go ahead.
For he dwelt
The well what? Did you finish that?
the high road.
Isn't that the well where Hagar and Ishmael, right? So don't say he was visiting his brother exactly, but he may have been coming from Ishmael's areas. Okay, go ahead.
For he dwelt in the south country.
He dwelt in the south country. Go ahead.
And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at the eventide.
So Isaac went into the field to think, to reflect about things that, you know, he needed to clear up in his brain. What things he might have needed to do, decisions that needed to be made. All right. So that's what he did. Go ahead.
And he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold.
So he's seen the whole caravan coming. All of the household that left, right? He see them coming back now. And he know what the mission is, so he's like, yo, am I about to give me a wife or what? Go ahead.
And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she lighted off the camel.
So she saw Isaac, and then when she saw Isaac, she got off the camel. Is that regular? So she got off the camel. So she said, well, let me go ahead and get down off of this camel. And go ahead and read. What happened?
For she had said unto the servant, what man is that walketh in the field?
She said, well, who is this coming to meet us? Go ahead.
And the servant said,
What did the servant say?
it is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself.
So he said, well, it's my master. Meaning what? It's Isaac is coming out. So he considered Isaac to be his master also. Not just Abraham. So it's a whole family he had honor and respect and service to. Go ahead, keep reading.
And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done.
So a servant came and he gave the report to Isaac. Said, yo, man, we found this woman. We got a wife for you. We got a lot of people. We gave a lot of stuff out, man. And he told about the prayer he sent up, and all of that. All right, go ahead.
And Isaac brought her into his mother's tent.
So Isaac took Rebekah and he said, we are going to go into my mother's tent. Now remember, the agreement is already made. All right? The agreement is already made. All right, the agreement is already made, meaning that this is his wife. The deal is done. So the agreement, the contract, if you will, understanding of marriage and her joining the household had already been established, right? It was already established. All right, go ahead.
And he took Rebekah.
So he went into his mother Sarah's tent after her death, and then he took Rebekah. And what happened?
And she became his wife.
He took Rebekah and he laid with her. He had sex with Rebekah. And then she became his wife, meaning that they consummated. All right, go ahead.
And he loved her.
And he loved her. Go ahead.
And Isaac was comforted after his mother's death.
That relationship brought him comfort after his mother's death. She brought him comfort. She was a friend to him. She was bringing calmness to his spirit, not conflict, not drama. She's a good woman for him. You understand? So he took her to be his wife. And then when he took her to be his wife, she laid down with him. Now, notice what it says, though. Let's go back to something real quick. All right, let's look at verse, love her, when it says, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. 24:67. All right. Read that verse again.
And Isaac brought her unto his mother Sarah.
So he took Rebekah into Sarah's tent. Go ahead.
And took Rebekah.
And he took Rebekah, meaning he laid with her. Go ahead.
And she became his wife.
And she became his wife. Okay. Watayalawa la asha. After he took her. So we see that the sex is what gives us the solidification of the marriage. Okay? She became his Asha. But now remember, Asha and Ba'ilwath is two different words used to describe marriage. You understand? Ba'ilwath is that lordship. And then Asha, meaning that's just his woman. He possesses that woman like Adam possessed Eve. They are one now. But Ba'ilwath, or marriage, can be with a woman that you had sex with, that you didn't have sex with, that makes that agreement. But a lot of times, people put and sometimes, as we see in Exodus 22:16, the physical submission of the woman to the man comes before the Ba'ilwath lordship of the marriage. Because sometimes that woman can be in a legal situation where she needs to get the consent of an authority figure before she can agree to that marriage. That's how things work. Especially if she's a virgin. She has to get her father's consent if she's a virgin. If she's not a virgin, no, she doesn't have to get her father's consent. No, the father cannot nullify the marriage. The father, according to Numbers chapter 30, can only nullify any agreement of a young girl that's living in his house, whether virgin or not. Okay, that's what we see in Leviticus, Numbers chapter 30. He can't nullify an old woman's agreement that's agreed to marry a man that's not a virgin. You can't nullify that. There's no law for that. Actually, the law says you can't do it because it's very specific language. Exodus 22:16 says a virgin. Okay, Bathwala or Betula. And then in Numbers chapter 30 says Nahida, a young girl, not no 40, 50, 30, or even 20-something-year-old woman. That's not the woman it's talking about because that's not the word that's used. It's not just a generic Asha word that's used. And leave it at that. It says Asha, then it says Nahida or Nahir, that's in her youth. And a lot of women that's having these disputes and discussions and problems are way beyond their youth. A lot of them getting too old to even have children. A lot of them don't even have viable eggs anymore. And that's because why? The father didn't watch over his daughter when she was younger, didn't teach her chastity. And that's what 2 Titus chapter 2 comes in. A woman that's been walking in a Hebrew lifestyle, not a camp lifestyle, not an Israelite group lifestyle, but an Israelite Hebrew lifestyle of her living it for several years is supposed to be the woman that's teaching the younger women. All right, and the reason the scripture says that as the leader of the cities are, so are the people. The reason you have so many women and men that don't understand marriage is one or two reasons. Either because they're learning wrong from their leaders, or their leaders are teaching them correctly, and they're not fully submitting themselves to what their leaders are saying in this righteous matter that needs to be adjusted and addressed within our nation, which is marriages and sexual relationships between people that's not righteously based on Hebrew examples and culture. Okay? So when he married Rebecca, when it says he brought her to his mother's tent, it says Wayakwak, and he took Rabakwa, meaning he had the relationship, the consummation, the coitus with her. All right? It says Watahaya, and she became lawa, to him, la asha, as a wife. Wa ahaba, and love he. Wa yanacham, and he was comforted. Yatzakak, Isaac, Akarya, after Amawa, after his mother. They got death in there, but death is not in the Hebrew. So he was comforted after his mother, meaning that she stepped in and she could fill in the shoes, the emotional needs that he had, that his mother had, that his mother was doing toward him. Okay? And he was comforted after his mother. His mother passed away, but now Rebecca filled in that void that his mother filled. And likewise, Isaac is going to fill in the void and improve on what Bethuel and Laban demonstrated toward their daughter and their sister. So it's just a constant family chain that's getting worked out. And it's getting improved and improved over the years. So our families have to be improving since we are in exile, but we have the records to show us how things were done. Was anything in writing? I don't know. Were there witnesses? Yes. Did she go back with them voluntarily? Yes. Did she lay down with him voluntarily? Yes. Did she become his wife? Yes. Is this always the example we see in the Torah? No. Who did David ask when Abigail became his wife? Nobody. He didn't ask nobody. She left and went looking for him. Once Nabal died, she went looking for him, like, oh, he about to be, I'm gonna marry him. When it came to Bathsheba, who did David ask for her to be his wife? Nobody. He took her. She was a widower now. So he married her. He didn't have to go and ask somebody or talk to nobody. So this whole thing about, oh, you got to go ask the father for permission, that's not true. We see the father being included when a woman is a virgin for sure. And then you may have harlots that may live in a father's house, as we see in the book of Hosea. But he's marrying her straight up, either she was a zanah, meaning a prostitute whore that was having sex for money, or just having sex with multiple men. Okay? So anyway, we see the righteous examples that are being set. And we want to do things in the right way. So it's prudent. It is prudent and it is advisable to include the father in the discussion about taking his daughter. Not necessary by Torah if she's not a virgin, but it's prudent and respectful to do that. And you may want to do it anyway. You may go to the house where the girl was raised at and see the father and the mother and everybody in there doing all kind of crazy stuff to make you not even want to be with her no more. But we live in a different society now where people want to try to pick and choose what cultural aspects of the Bible they want to apply. Start with the fact that the woman is not even a virgin, but it was men that weren't virgins marrying virgins, like Abraham did, like Jacob, our father, did. All right? Jacob wasn't a virgin after he had sex with Leah, but he still took Rachel after that. So her virginity is what was important, not Jacob's. So the woman must preserve her sexual chastity and stop opening her legs and having sex with any man that come with Bible verses without nobody's involvement. Not no father, not no elder. And half these elders, calling themselves elders now, are not elders. Because the elder had to be able to defend the gospel and to defend the Torah. And a lot of these elders don't know the Torah, don't study Torah, don't teach Torah, therefore they can't defend Torah. Because if they did, and they knew what the Torah said, they would be hypocrites. Because all the ones in the major city got their people buying and selling, going through tolls and toll booths and getting gasoline and buying food on the Shabbat. When Yahweh said, don't do that. Right? Yahweh said, don't do that. So we're going into chapter 25 up to verse 17, right? Yeah, chapter 25 up to verse 18. All right? The water. Thank you for your service. Chapter 25, verse 1 and 18. Go ahead.
Then again, Abraham took a wife.
So Abraham took a wife. Go ahead.
And her name was Keturah.
So Abraham got a wife for his son, and then he took him another wife too. Go ahead.
And she bare him Zimran and
Jokshan,
and
Medan,
and
Midian,
and Ishbak
and Ishbak,
and Shua.
and Shua. So that's at least 5 sons that she had for him, right? 6. At least 6 sons that she had for him. So these are the sons of Abraham too. And these are mainly the Arab nation, some of the Arab nations in the Middle East. All right, go ahead.
And Jokshan begot Sheba and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan were
Ashurim, go ahead.
and
Letushim,
and Lebanon,
and Leumdim, go ahead.
and the sons of Midian,
Which is one of the main Arab nations, go ahead. Ephah, go ahead. And Epher, go ahead.
And these were the children of Keturah.
So they had a bunch of children together. He had a lot of children with her. And then Midian went off and got married and had a bunch of children too. All right, go ahead.
And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac.
But that land doesn't belong to the Arabs. Like I said earlier, Abraham gave everything he had until his son Isaac. So he inherited the rulership, the power, the servants, the assets. Go ahead.
But unto the sons of the concubine,
Unto the sons of concubine, go ahead.
which Abraham gave gifts.
He gave them gifts. He gave them, large flocks, gold, silver, all right, titles of land maybe that he had bought someplace else. Go ahead.
And sent them away from Isaac his son,
Mhm.
while he yet lived eastward and unto the east country.
So he sent them away while he was still alive. So everybody will know that, hey, they not merging with Isaac's family. Ain't gonna be no arguments. Because the one that's giving the will, that's letting people know what the relationship is gonna be, is still alive. Go ahead.
And these are the days of the years of Abraham's life,
The years of Abraham's life, go ahead.
which he lived 115 years.
103 score and what?
15 years.
Okay, 115 years. So 100 and what was old. Okay? Just like if Abraham was born in the, if he was born in 1800 to 1900 is 100 years. 1900, if he was born in 1800, he would have died a little before. He would have died like in 1975. So he would have seen all of that. Okay? And he was born in 1900, he would still be alive in 121 years. So he lived a nice long life. Read.
Then Abraham gave up the ghost.
Gave up the ghost when he gave up the spirit. All right, this just says he gave up the spirit. So it say he expired. All right, go ahead.
And died in a good old age.
So he was a good old age, 175 years old. All right, go ahead.
An old man and full of years.
An old man was full of years. Go ahead.
And was gathered to his people.
Gathered to his people, meaning that he died and his body and his spirit were at rest. Go ahead.
And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him.
So Ishmael and Isaac buried him. So they didn't have no beef with each other. He got buried. This is his son. There's no problem with Ishmael at this point now. They're grown men now. Read.
In the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron, the son of Abraham purchased the sons of Heth.
Mm-hmm.
There was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that Eliah blessed his son Isaac, and Isaac dwelt by the well Lahorio. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, whom Hagar the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare unto Abraham.
Now this is Abraham's firstborn son, Ishmael, which is Yashami Allah. Go ahead.
And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names,
Go ahead.
according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and
Kedar and Mitzam, and who else?
And
Mishma, and who else? Dima, and Masah, Hadar,
and
Tema, Jatir, Nafish, and Kedema.
These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names by their towns and by their castles, 12 princes, according to their nations. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he gave up the ghost and died, and was gathered unto his people. And they dwelt from Havilah unto Shur.
Right.
That is.
All right. Ishmael died. He was buried. Ishmael had 12 princes, and we had 12 tribes, and you have the Edomites that say that they had 12 dukes. So these are the three main families on the earth now as far as the power goes. Ishmael, the Arabs, Esau, so-called white man, and Israel, the Native American Indians, the people of the Americas, the Latinos, and the blacks that came in slavery. Those are the three main families of power on the earth now. Okay? Let's go on to 1 Kings, chapter 1. Amaria. First Kings 1 through 31. Going into the death of our father, King David.
First Kings chapter 1, verse 1. Now King David was old and stricken in years, but they covered him with the clothes, but he got no heat. Wherefore his servant said unto him, Let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin.
So he said, bring me a young woman, a young virgin. Go ahead.
And let her stand before the king.
Let her keep me warm at night. You know, just hold me. Ain't got to do nothing with me. Just hold me. Okay, go ahead.
So,
Can somebody get them something to drink, please? One of them. Go ahead. We'll get you straightened out.
So they sought for a fair damsel throughout all the coasts of Yashala, and found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, But the king knew her not.
Meaning he never laid with her. She just served him. See, every relationship don't got to be based on sexuality. It's just based on what? She serving him. He not marrying her so he can minister and serve her. The woman serves the man, whether he's old or whether he's a young man. She's not marrying him so she can figure out what's in it for her, what she's going to get, what he's bringing to the table. She's just there to serve him and keep him warm. Not to get rich or die trying. All right, go ahead.
Then Adonijah, the son of Haggith, exalted himself, saying, I will be the king. And he prepared him chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run before him. And his father had not displeased him at any time in sight.
So David was very good, had a good relationship with his son, but his son just wanted to have that power. Go ahead.
Why hast thou done so? And he was a very goodly man. And his mother bare him after Absalom. And he conferred with Joab, the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar the priest. And they following Adonijah helped him. But Zadok the priest and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei and Rei, and the mighty men which belonged to David were not with Adonijah.
So some of the people was part of this revolt, this uprising, it's a coup. Meaning they're going to try to take over the king and exalt him as the king himself. And it came out of nowhere. It's just the greed and the lust for the power. Came out of nowhere. I read.
And Adonijah slew sheep and oxen and fat cattle by the stone of Zeheleth, which is by Enrogel, and called all his brethren, the king's sons, and all the men of Judah, the king's servants. But Nathan the prophet.
So he called a bunch of people to see himself be made the king. Read.
Called not.
So he called all David's brothers. Go ahead.
Wherefore Nathan spake unto Bathsheba, the mother of Solomon, saying, Hast thou not heard that Adonijah, the son of Haggith, doth reign, and David our Lord knoweth it not? Now therefore come, let me, I pray thee, give thee counsel, that thou mayest save thine own life, and the life of thy son Solomon. Go and get thee unto my Lord, O king, swear unto thine handmaid, saying, Assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne. Why then doth Adonijah reign?
So they try to remind her, like, look, you said that Solomon was going to be the king, but Adonijah had made himself the king over Israel now. He's anointed himself to be the king. Go ahead.
Behold, while thou yet talkest with the king, I will come in after thee and confirm thy words. And Bathsheba went in unto the king into the chamber, and the king was very old. And Abishag the Shunammite ministered unto the king. And Bathsheba bowed and did obeisance unto the king.
So she bowed down to the king. Go ahead.
And the king said, What wouldest thou?
So the king asked her, well, what do you want? Go ahead.
And she said unto him, My lord, thou swearest by Yahweh thy Mahai unto thine handmaid, saying, Assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me.
So you promised me that Solomon was going to be the king. And we know the Most High already chose Solomon to be the king too. That's why I said when you pray for stuff, you got to know and walk in that direction of what you pray for and what the Most High have already said. She could have just said, well, I ain't going to do nothing. The Most High, this going to happen, so oh well. You got to act on these prayers. You got to act on what the Most High have already shown and told us He's going to do. You got to act on it. You got to live it. You got to walk it. You got to breathe it. You got to walk as if you are a ruler and a king of the earth. You got to walk as if you are an upright daughter or son of Zion. You got to walk as if you are obedient to the Torah, and then you will be that. But if you're walking in defeat, I'm in captivity, I can't keep the commandments, only thing I can do is go to Red Lobster because we in captivity. You're always going to be breaking the commandments then, and the Holy Spirit could never come into you. Rakah HaKodesh, when I enter into somebody that's subject unto sin, meaning when I'm going to have a choice, to do right or wrong. I'm going to choose to sin because I'm in captivity. So you don't have the Holy Spirit. You don't have Ruach HaKodesh. You don't have the spirit of wisdom. That's in Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1, verse 5. It tells you that. All right, go ahead.
And he shall sit upon my throne. And now behold,
So make no doubt about it is what he's saying. Go ahead.
and now Adonai reigneth. And now, my Lord the King, thou knowest it not. And he hath slain oxen and fat cattle, and sheep in abundance, and hath called all the sons of the king, and Abiathar the priest, and Joab the captain of the host. But Solomon thy servant hath he not called. And thou, O my Lord, O king, the eyes of all Yashal are upon thee.
So he's saying he's called everybody to be at this installment ceremony. All right, that's what he's saying. He's calling everybody to come to this ceremony to make him the king, but you don't know what's going on. So they're telling him, like, this is what he's doing, man. Now, go ahead.
That thou shouldest tell them who shall sit on the throne.
So we want you to come so you can tell everybody who is going to be the king after you. That's what they want to happen. Now, this is the same thing that Abraham did. Abraham said, Isaac is going to inherit everything when I die, before he died. So you had to respect that. You had to respect what he said. And that's what happened. When he died, people respected what he said. Because he said it while he was breathing. You had to be obedient. Because you can't build upon the man's house if the man said he don't want you to be the ruler. How are you going to build upon what he's leaving behind? All right, go ahead.
That thou shouldest tell them who should sit on the throne of my Lord the King.
So tell the people who are going to be ruling after you, man. Don't let it be no mystery. So get the affairs in order and let it be transparent. Let people know what's going on. So it's not no question. It's not no point of disagreement. Like our father Abraham did. This was going to rule. I'm going to give everything to Isaac now. The rest of y'all get some gifts. Some things that, they're going to help you out in your mission in life. But Isaac is the one that's going to be, over everything that I'm leaving behind. Not Ishmael, not Midian, none of these other guys. Isaac is the one. So David is doing the same thing. Why? Like I said earlier, we got to see the examples of what our fathers did and how they did things, and then we have to imitate them. We got to imitate our fathers, and as we imitate them and walk like them, wisdom will become our introduction to being Yahweh's friend. Go ahead.
Otherwise it shall come to pass, when my Lord the King shall sleep with his fathers.
If not, we're going to have some problems. What?
That I and my son Solomon shall be counted offenders.
They're going to kick us out. And they're going to say we wrong for wanting the rulership. Go ahead.
And lo, while she yet talked with the king, Nathan the prophet also came in. And they told the king, saying, Behold, Nathan the prophet, and when he was come in before the king, he bowed himself before the king, with his face to the ground. And Nathan said, My Lord, O king, hast thou said, Adonijah shall reign after me, and shall sit upon my throne? For he has gone down this day, and hath slain oxen and fat cattle, and sheep in abundance, and hath called all the king's sons, and the captains of the host, and Abiathar the priest, and behold, they eat and drink before him, and sing, On high save King Adonai. But me, even me thy servant, and Zadok the priest, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and thy servant Solomon hath he not called. Is this thing done by my Lord the King? And thou hast not showed it unto thy servant, who would sit on the throne of my Lord the King after him.
Right.
Then King David answered and said, Call me Bathsheba.
Call Bathsheba. Go ahead.
And she came into the king's presence and stood before the king.
Right.
And the king swore.
The king made a swear. Go ahead. He made an oath, a vow. Go ahead.
And said, As Yahweh liveth.
As Yahweh lives. Go ahead.
That hath redeemed my soul out of all distress. Even as I swear unto thee by Yahweh on the high of Yeshua.
Go ahead.
Saying, Assuredly Solomon thy son shall reign after me. And he shall sit upon my throne in my stead. Even so will I certainly do this day.
Right.
Then Bathsheba bowed with her face to the earth, and did reverence the king, and said, Let my Lord King David live forever.
May the Most High grant you eternal life, is what she said. Okay. So he set his affairs in order, King David did, because he knew the example that our fathers left, and he knew what could happen if you don't set your family in order before you die. Okay? Just saying, well, we gotta act. So the wife can do that, but she also had backup. She's going in by herself, saying, hey, look, remember you said the king, she had to go with one of his main advisors. So a lot of times the woman thinks that she's on the same level as the man. She's not. She's on a lower level than the man. And this was not no husband-wife situation. She would have seemed like she's trying to usurp the authority, usurp the throne over him by coming and saying, make my son the king. But when the man goes in, King David's advisor, you know, when he goes in, all right, and he tells him, look, you know, this is what you said, this was happening, this is what Adonai is doing. He's not going to get mad with Nathan, because Nathan is seeking righteousness, but the woman, he could accuse certain things. Right? So the woman, if Nathan wasn't there, she had to put herself on a very, very, very humble level to come to the king directly. And to save from going through all of that, you know, her and Adonai, her and Nathan, just, you know, figured out how they could make things righteous according to what the Most High had already promised. Okay? All right, let's go to John 4, 3 through 14. Yeah, you go ahead, man. No, I'm talking to him. John 4, 3 through 14. John chapter 4, 3 through 14. I got it when you got it.
John chapter 4, verse 3. He left Judea and departed again into Galilee, and he must needs go through Samaria. Then cometh he to a city of Samaria, which is called Sychar, near to the parcel of ground that Jacob gave to his son Joseph. Now Jacob's well was there. Yahushua therefore, being wearied on his journey, sat thus on the well, and it was about the 6th hour. There cometh a woman of Samaria to draw water. Yahushua saith unto her, Give me to drink, for his disciples were gone away unto the city to buy meat. Then saith the woman of Samaria unto him, How is it that thou, being a Jew, askest a drink of me, which am a woman of Samaria?
So other people have been transplanted into that land, going back to 2 Kings chapter 17, when the Israelites got kicked out under King Shalmaneser, or Shalmaneser, however you want to say it. We got kicked out and brought out of that land, and then we got put into captivity in Assyria. So the king took people from all the different lands that he had conquered and brought them into our land of Israel to keep the land and to grow stuff, plant the crops, keep the roads clean, keep the animals from taking over that area, and they were producing for the empire. So in doing this, those people get sent lions to kill them because they didn't know how to worship Yahweh. So then they sent for a Levite priest to come to teach them how to worship Yahweh, and then that's how the Samaritans became practitioners of the first 5 books of the Bible. Because Shalmaneser sent Levites there to show them the way, to show them about the Torah, so they wouldn't be just, you know, getting eaten up by beasts anymore. Go ahead.
For the Jews have no dealings with the Samaritans, Yahushua answered and said to him, If thou knewest the gift of Ohio, and who it is that saith to thee, Give me to drink, thou wouldest have asked of him, and he would have given thee living water. The woman saith unto him, Sir, thou hast nothing to draw with, and the well is deep.
So she looking in the flesh, he talking about the spirit. Go ahead.
From whence then hast thou that living water?
It wasn't her father. They had intruded upon the territory of Ephraim. There was in Ephraim's territory, right? No, Manasseh's territory, excuse me. There was in Manasseh's territory in Samaria, and when they went there, the king was like, well, look, Yahushua was like, you talking on a physical level, I'm talking on a spiritual level, letting you know that these people were not on a higher spiritual level when it came to the parables and when it came to wisdom. They was on just rigid, just what it say, and that's it. It wasn't a culture of expressive spiritual mysteries being revealed and shown and exercised by them. All right, go ahead.
And Yahushua answered it and said unto her, Whosoever drinketh of this water shall thirst again. Whosoever drinketh of the water that I give him shall never thirst.
So I'm talking to you in the spirit. You talking to me in the physical. All right, go ahead.
But the water that I shall give him.
The water I give you what?
Shall be in him a well of water.
So meaning the knowledge and the wisdom that you can get from my words will always be able to nourish you and to sustain you. Read.
Springing up into everlasting life.
So that's what's going to be able to give you everlasting life. All right, that's why I said, what can it? Let the king live forever. Let this righteous decree of wisdom that he's bringing forth on how to solve this problem cause him to inherit everlasting life. When our father Abraham died, may he live forever. The Most High is going to grant him eternal life. Our mother Sarah, may she live forever. The Most High grant her eternal life also, based on their righteous actions and their righteous respect, worship, and honor of the Most High power, Yahweh. Okay. So that's all we got for right now. I've been saying we got a bad connection on here for the longest. Amayan, Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Amayan. And anybody else that said Shabbat Shalom, success's journey, Shalom, Shalom. All right, so all praise to the Most High. That's the Torah portion for today. Shabbat. We see about the marriage. Natan la yashata baba kusha. So marriage is a very serious subject. We see characters about marriage being, in the thing we just read. We see the woman of Samaria. Yahweh had a discussion with her about how many husbands she had, right? And then we see Solomon and his mother Bathsheba. That relationship initiated in adultery, but it was rescued through Solomon and through David's repentance. And then we see in the Chayei or Chayei Shara Torah portion today, we see the marriage, the death of our mothers, Sarah, who married Abraham, and then we see Abraham sending for a wife for Isaac, and then Isaac also getting married. Then we see Abraham taking another wife, Torah. So we see the whole thing is about family, family order, family structure. All right, but the man has to know the Torah, and the woman has to know the Torah, and they have to have elements basic principles of chakma that they can apply in their marriage. And they have to know how to draw from, they have to have the ability to draw from the righteous biblical examples, and then to make their lives and the life of their husband and wife better. It's not just the woman doing this and the wife doing that, and the man doing this and the husband doing this. Both of them are out of order because neither one of them have a sound model of what a marriage is. And they're working off of, things they read, but really haven't necessarily, and react into different situations, the water. How they're gonna respond and react, in different situations. So what happens is that we got these case by case, situations that, we may try to resolve, but may not get resolved because the people are too far gone in their own understanding to submit to righteous instruction. Then the marriage is not going to work. The marriage is not going to be, functional according to the Torah, because both sides have to be working together, coming from the same source. And what we read today, this is the source on how the marriage is supposed to be. The Torah is the source on how to operate in a marriage. I put that like the Torah is the example. So once you see the Torah example and you live by the Torah example, then the marriage is going to work. And a lot of brothers out here getting women, but don't know what the Bible says, what the Torah says about their relationship with this woman. They don't know how to be a husband. They just know how to tell somebody what to do and how to insert. And that's not the parameters of being a husband. You have to be a counselor. You have to be a director. You have to be, a boss. You have to be, compassionate. You have to be intelligent enough to see right from wrong and guide your woman in your house properly. Everybody understand that? So the woman have to submit to the man. And the man can't just go out here forcing women to be their wife and forcing women to be his wife and say, "You my wife now." And then over time, the woman just, okay, whatever. You got to deal with righteousness. When Torah or biblical references or maintaining and having a righteous biblical marriage, you can contact me, directly through, DM. You can give me a direct message. You can inbox me or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to serve the nation. I'm here to help the people. All right, so may the Most High Yahweh bless, reward, and protect all of you in the name of his son, Yahweh Shi HaMashiach. All right, so Shalom Alaikum to everybody. All right, so